Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Tuesday, April 12th, 2022. And our top story today, giving increased during the pandemic. Well, joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Ariel Friedman is a PhD candidate with the University of California, San Diego's Rady School of Management. Ariel, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
All right, so we're talking charity, and we're talking about a recent survey that you and the team at UCSD did on analyzing charitable donations during the pandemic. And the results, I have to say, surprised me. But give us your first thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the results surprised us as well. We went into this project kind of not knowing exactly what to expect. There's kind of like two streams of research that make opposite predictions. There's one stream of research that says when people are faced with a threat, they kind of turn inward, they become more selfish, they look out for themselves. And there's another stream of research that says the exact opposite, right? That when people are faced with a threat, they kind of engage in what's called catastrophe compassion. They help each other out, they become more giving. And so we were kind of curious to know, in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, which we would find in the context of financial generosity, at least.
And it seems as though, as I said in the intro before you came on, that during the pandemic, charitable donations increased. So it seems like people looked beyond themselves, even though there were worsening financial conditions, people losing jobs. We remember back to that time, people losing jobs. We were all quarantined. It was 15 days to stop the spread, and 15 days turned into 15 plus months to stop the spread. But people really looked outward, and that really is that's amazing.
That's right. Yeah, no, I mean, we think of it as kind of a silver lining among this kind of tragic period, in that, Americans did seem to help each other more. And as you mentioned, it's incredibly surprising also in light of the kind of financial situation that's accompanied the pandemic. And in fact, there were some expert predictions that due to the financial kind of collapse associated with the pandemic would lead to a reduction in charitable giving. And in the United States, there's been a long-term pattern of charitable giving following kind of the underlying economic health. In 2000 and during the 2008 recession, giving decreased. And so this actually breaks the long-term pattern of charitable giving in the U.S., where giving increased despite a worsening kind of economic situation.
And you bring up 2008, which I thought was really interesting in this study, because, look, I remember 2008. It was basically almost like the second Great Depression. Huge collapse, a lot of pressure on people financially as it relates to their homes. People were losing their homes. They had variable rate mortgages, all this kind of stuff that happened. And as you said in the report, and you're saying here, people really turned inward and said, okay, I gotta worry about mine. I can't be worried about the guy down the street or the family over here or someone else that is having similar circumstances. Really, really a different perspective. And I'm wondering if you look at, I mean, it's similar but different.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And I think we're not entirely certain the exact what the exact reasons are that drive that difference. And I think that's something that's kind of important, perhaps for future research to try to investigate and look at when, exactly like you said, when the reaction is kind of more selfish and when it is more generous. I think that's kind of still a debated question in the literature. And in fact, even with this pandemic, during the early days, especially, we saw people kind of hoarding toilet paper and masks. So there were also some selfish responses even during this pandemic. But the question of when to expect selfishness or generosity is a very interesting one. And I think it's still kind of an open question of when to expect which reaction.
Yeah, I wonder if some of this is related to the amount of deaths, we all maybe were touched by this. So there's the 2008 collapse, which arguably people probably committed suicide, killed themselves over it, but it wasn't a health event like this was. And we all heard and read and maybe even knew people that had passed away. Maybe that had something, that empathy, that sympathy had something to do with it. You know, hey, look, that person's in a worse strait than I am. They lost a loved one. Their loved ones are stuck in a senior living center and can't get out, or in the hospital. I wonder if that has something to do with it.
Yeah, that's definitely possible, and something that we've thought about. And in fact, in our data set one of our data sets that we use to analyze this question is from charitynavigator.com. We actually saw that in the year 2020, giving that was in memory of someone was higher than at any period before. So it is indeed possible that those kinds of feelings of sympathy may be driving this kind of increase in giving. Is also, there are kind of other related reasons that people may want to just simply kind of feel positive emotions associated with giving during a time when there might be a lot of negative emotions swirling around.
Yeah, there were a lot of negative emotions, and still are in some ways. Ariel, I need to take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll talk more about how giving increased, and also maybe some takeaways for development directors from charitable organizations out there. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms? Especially for the smaller businesses. I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you over 50? Would you like to get up to 33% more income in retirement? Then call now for this free book, Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers. This free book reveals little-known secrets about annuity strategies that will help you make the right choices before buying an annuity. Call right now for your free book, and as a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report, both absolutely free for calling Annuity General today.
Call 800-504-8194.
Welcome back. We're talking this morning to Ariel Friedman. He is a PhD candidate with the University of California at San Diego's Rady School of Management. Ariel, thanks so much for staying with us this morning.
Thank you so much.
So really interesting study, and I guess it's really hard to judge how people are going to react to anything. We're individuals, so we all react differently. But if you're a development director, you're watching this program. Hopefully, a lot of them are watching this program, or they're reading your study. What would you want them to take away? Someone who's looking to raise for a very important cause or causes, raise money. What do you think they should take away from this study?
Yeah, I think one important thing is kind of not to underestimate people's desire to help one another, even during kind of stressful or difficult periods, or even potentially during kind of economic downturns. That I think people still want to help one another. And if you're in a position where you can kind of, you know, fundraise or you know, kind of develop charity giving. I think that finding ways to kind of facilitate people's desire to give would be incredibly helpful because people do want to help. And so kind of removing any potential frictions and making it easy for people to give is very important so that people can kind of channel their willingness to give.
Yeah, and I think you made a really good point in the last segment, which I'll just bring forward, the positivity. I think when you talk to people, they want to be positive. I mean, every once in a while you run into Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, right? You know, right? There's always one. But for the most part, I think people want to be positive. And like you said, they want to help somebody else. If it's in their power, where they don't have to go too far out of the way, right? If it's too much work, they don't want to do it. That's just the reality of human nature. But if they can have a positive impact, that positive emotion really can carry the day with them and also can help in the fundraising efforts of a charitable organization.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that that's absolutely right. And there is kind of research that shows that even small frictions can kind of lead people to change their mind about giving. And so kind of removing any kind of possible barriers and making it easy for people is certainly worthwhile.
Yeah, and look, now I've been reading you can actually give in dollars, you can give with a credit card, you can even give Ariel in cryptocurrency. So there's lots of ways if you're fortunate enough to be able to own cryptocurrency. You know, one of the I know this wasn't in your study, and your study was about the pandemic, but I look at this Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and I look at people bundling contributions. I mean, you hear people getting together, organizations getting together, whether it's donating clothing, whether it's donating food, whether it's donating money that will help provide for these people. I think this is another example where people are like, look what's going on here. There are people losing their lives for basically unnecessarily. I want to have a positive impact, right? I mean, I think that's another example where you're kind of seeing what you saw in your report, which is people want to help other people.
Absolutely, and that's occurring again, even in the face of, you know, potential kind of economic hardship in the U.S., you know, kind of associated with gas prices and rising prices in general. Despite those kinds of, you know, economic issues, people still want to give. And so I agree. I think that that's another example of catastrophe compassion.
So let me ask you, just to kind of wrap up the interview, is there a follow-up to this study? Will you and the team, I know you're working on your PhD, but will you and the team do a follow-up where you look at, for example, giving maybe 2021 into 2022 into 2023?
Yeah, so we're talking about kind of continuing to look at the pandemic. We're also thinking about looking at other kinds of natural disasters like hurricanes, earthquakes, things like that, to see how giving changes in the face of those kinds of catastrophes. And then also, as I alluded to earlier, to try to better understand when the response is selfishness and when the response is generosity. And it may be that, you know, the same person may act selfishly and generously, but in different domains, right? And so we're curious about all of those questions, and we'll be continuing the research.
Yeah, do you think, just as anecdotally, do you think there's a way to program, you know, we talk a lot about artificial intelligence and the ability to assess what someone's going to do. I mean, is it possible using some of this data and other data to try to figure out what someone's going to do? Like what is Jeff Snyder going to do? What is Ariel Friedman going to do? I mean, is it possible to get to that level yet?
I don't know that we can go down all the way to the individual level, but I think that definitely looking at kind of averages or the typical person, and maybe there are some attributes or characteristics that are more predictive than others of certain behavior, but I don't know that we're able yet to go down to each individual.
Yeah, well, I think it'll be certainly interesting. Maybe when we're long gone, 100 years from now, maybe they'll figure that out. Ariel Friedman, great to talk to you as always. Great report. Thank your co-authors, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Will do. Thank you so much.
That wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest curated news, lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, all in one place and for free, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to see our latest content? Search our archives. We'll check out our website and also our streaming partners like Amazon, Roku, Samsung, over 100 more. We're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN AM. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
But if you're tired of the same old...
Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the first lifestyle and wellness network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.